Warning! The anime egotists have opinions about stuff and other stuff. Please understand this while watching the video and know that no opinion is a fact, not even yours. So please enjoy the video. Or don't. And welcome back to the Anime Egotists, the best, worst, and all-around most interesting place to come to for anime. I'm your host, Alex, and I'm joined by my co-host who somehow has survived the piranha attacks.
And I'm Richard, and piranhas are no match for me.
Of course, of course. And we know, it's been a minute since we've last updated. We're sorry. But in the words of Shaquille O'Neal, this is a prime example of shit happening. But something we talk about happening a lot is Pokemon, and you may have noticed that every once in a while we talk about the game characters and just what they're doing and going on. Every now and then we bring it up, just once, maybe twice, right?
I think we've only talked about it once. We never really talk about this.
No, absolutely not. But a lot of people say things when it comes to the Pokemon anime that, oh, well, Ash Ketchum should be replaced. Ash Ketchum should have stopped being in the show at X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. That was kind of a double entendre. I meant X, Y, and Z. I didn't mean it the show. I just meant it as in blah 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 blah.
But your anime.
Yeah, it actually kind of works out. Oh, but in all seriousness, a lot of people talk about Ash Ketchum being replaced, and while it doesn't look like he's going to be replaced anytime soon, Richard and I were wondering, with these game characters running around, what would it have been like if they were in the show?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much we've been thinking about how we would write them into the story, whether we'd write them into this anime or start their own one, and how we would write them as characters, trying to figure out how that works.
That's right. And basically, we wanted to talk about this because we've been mentioning this quite a bit. It's gotten to the point where people in our comments are regularly talking about, oh, well, how would you feel about this character or this character? I'm like, well, now we have to address the elephant in the room. But before we begin and get into all that, I want to address our newest subscriber, Devin Holmes. Honestly, I normally have something witty to say about their name or stuff like that, but I don't have that right now. But I do see in their logo an Atlanta Hawk, and so to me that says they're an Atlanta Hawks fan, and I am so proud of that, especially because the Hawks are winning in the playoffs right now. I hope somebody doesn't find this clip and be like, ah, you thought, and then we end up losing or something. But Devin Holmes, thank you so much for your subscription.
Yes, thank you for subscribing.
That's right. And right now, let's get into it. So, what regions did you want us to talk about today, Richard? Which ones?
So, it's probably best to start with the two that we know the best, which for me is Johto, and of course for you is Hoenn. So I think that's the best place to start.
That's right. And if you want us to talk about, like, if this video does well enough and you want us to talk about Black and White and Unova, we're gonna have to talk about that one, because that's the one that we struggle with at times.
Yeah, I mean, neither of us have the best knowledge of that region, because I've never watched the series, so I don't know enough about that through there, and I've only played like the first maybe quarter of Black and White 2.
Yeah. But anyways, how about you start? How would you write, well, let's just call him Ethan because that's pretty much what his name is, how would you put him into the anime? And don't say Pokemon Chronicles, because they already did that.
So yes, if you haven't gone and watched Pokemon Chronicles, which is like a in-between Johto and Hoenn mini-series that they did, there is an episode where they have Ethan, Crystal, although I think she has a different name in the series.
I think it's like Marina, Jimmy, and like his name is Jimmy. I know that for sure.
Yeah, so there's like a 3-parter in that series with him. So we're not going to count that. It's its own thing.
It was cool though. I liked it.
I'm debating on how I would want to add Ethan into the series or write him in. If we're doing this individually, it kind of has to be their own anime. They don't like start from the beginning, I would say. Just because if you write all of the game characters into the current anime at one time, I think it could work. but writing a single one into this anime, I just don't think it would work well.
Okay, this is already starting off interesting. You're gonna have to. I'm gonna be interested with your points.
Okay. My main thing is that, well, first off, you'd piss off the fan base if you only wrote one character in, because it's not my uh, person, so it's not the best one that they should have put in.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So it's one of those, you kind of have to weigh your options. So if you were to add all of them, I really think that they could do it at the end of this series, the Journey series now, where there's something beyond master class or whatever they call it in there, and it's all of the game characters because they've beaten everybody else. They're the next highest level, so that's where you'll meet all of them.
Yeah, and we're all just like, where the hell have you guys been for this long? And they're just like, eh. I'm like,
We
all
only fight
right,
with
fair
each other
enough.
because you're the only they're the only challenge that we actually get. Everybody else sucks,
Yeah,
especially you,
basically,
Ash.
they all just have such hatred towards Ash, with the exception of like one or two of them. But I guess in a way, I guess I was kind of thinking, and a lot of people say, oh, just have your own series. I'm just like, well, and here's the thing: we've talked about this before with anime art, with our anime arcs that kind of deserved better or could have been better, and also we kind of talked about it in terms of the characters who we wanted more from. Like I said, Morrison, because primarily, like, I know you're not the biggest fan of Morrison, but in all seriousness, I'd have liked somebody to have shown up earlier in the series, because as much as I love like the Ruby and Sapphire anime, or like the Hoenn arc, one of my biggest problems is Ash kind of has no rivals or anything for a good chunk of the series. Like, he doesn't meet Morrison until he has like 7 or 8 badges.
Yeah, and we've gone over that in the past, and I agree that Morrison's probably not my least favorite character, but he's so underdeveloped when it comes to being Ash's rival by comparison to other rivals that because you see the other rivals from like episode 1 or 2.
Yeah.
It's like so you know who they are and you get to know them in episodes, not
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, which is why I said, and you know what? We've talked before about, oh, Ash should have left after Johto and made room for someone else, but like, I'm going to do something else. Keep Ash for this part. Keep Ash, May, Max, Brock. Keep them together, but have Ash have a main rival throughout the series. Please have it be Brendan from Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald.
Yeah, I really think that it really was Hoenn that kind of messed that up because pretty much in um, Ruby and or Red and Blue, and then Gold and Silver, you could sub in Ash for the main character because they still looked enough alike, but then they
Right.
changed the character so much with Brendan that it's like, okay, this isn't Ash.
I mean, to be fair, a lot of people still are convinced that that white hat on his head was his hair. I'm like, yeah, because I see a lot of 10-year-olds running around with white hair in Pokemon.
I mean, you really can't say anything now because people can dye their hair like pretty much any color they want and
Yeah,
at
but
any age. So.
yeah, but still, it would have been weird here if it's like if he had, never mind. We'll talk about it later. But here's the thing: have him be Ash's main rival. Have him show up relatively early on, and here's the thing: everybody knows I love Mudkip, so people would be automatically saying, "Oh, what? You're gonna say he has a Mudkip because you love it?" I'm like, no, I'm gonna say have a Mudkip because May had Blaziken, which didn't evolve into Blaziken until like one of the last episodes, which kind of surprised me.
Yeah. Once they were in through the battle frontier,
Yeah,
all the way at that end.
Like I'd be thinking, wow, you evolved and we couldn't even use you in the Grand Festival. Okay, cool. Skeptile had evolved. Ash's Skeptile evolved like into a little bit into Battle Frontier, and it had its own character arc, which it was kind of hit and miss for me. But we never really got a consistent presence from a Swampert because Brock never evolved his Marshtomp. And for Brock, it kind of made sense. He's not training his Pokemon for battle. But Brendan wouldn't really be on that. He'd be like, no, 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 no. Oh, we want to win. We want to be the best. Let's evolve everybody like as much as we can to that extent. So that right there could take care of it. You could have had them kind of be the starter trio in some aspects.
Yeah, I really agree with this. It's something that the anime really dropped the ball on, and that was they seem to include the female protagonist from the games in some respect up through Black and White. Pretty much, I don't think they included her in it. I've never saw it.
I don't believe so. No, but then they went back to that with when X and Y with Serena.
Yeah, so we've seen, but we saw May, Dawn, Lyra from
Oh,
the
that's right.
remakes.
Forgot about her for a second.
Even though she was only in a handful of episodes in Diamond and Pearl, I'm counting her because she was a female protagonist from the games.
Yeah,
and she appeared in the anime. But then again, as I said, Black and White and Black and White 2, the protagonists were pretty much completely skipped. And then we got Serena and the rival group.
Your friends, basically.
And they all appeared in the anime as kind of how they appear in the games.
Yeah, except like way better developed.
True.
Yeah. But I guess, and the thing with me is, a lot of people would say, well, how would you write him as a character? It was like, well, in the manga, they kind of tease that he was kind of, I don't want to say stuck up, but he was kind of cocky. He was kind of a little bit of arrogance. And a lot of people would be like, well, wouldn't that just be a carbon copy of Gary? I'm like, no, because one of the things I would add is I'm going to be referencing Yu-Gi-Oh! GX a little bit in this video. Just a heads up to people. I would kind of write him how they write Chaz as the Chaz Princeton. And have him be arrogant, have him be cocky, but at the same time, have him be bumbling in some aspects. Not like more towards Chaz because he still had like kind of an aura of badass about him, but not so much as like from Shaolin Shodown Jack Spicer, who I do love, but at the same time, they made him completely comedic sometimes, which worked out fine, but I wouldn't want him to be too comedic.
Okay. The only thing I have to say that if you're going to take anything from Chaz, it has to be that he says, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna Brendan it up.
I'd be completely okay. I would be okay with that. That was one of the best catchphrases in the whole show. I'll take Chaz up over get your game on almost any other day of the week.
Yeah. See, part of the issue with writing Ethan is he's pretty much a carbon copy of Red. At least from what I understand of him, he's friendly. He has some issues at the beginning, and I guess he's more, especially later on in the series, from what I hear, he's more friendly than Red was. But again, most of my knowledge comes from the games and the anime. That's about where I'm at. So I don't know the manga enough to be able to write him based on that.
I don't either, but I think here's the thing for me is I do kind of like his counter, like we talked about in Pokemon Journeys. He was like, obviously, he was still a nice guy. I cared about his Pokemon, cared about his friends. At the same time, though, he was kind of standoffish at times. Like when Marina showed up, he didn't really respond. He's like, "Oh, hey, Marina, what's up?" Like just a very basic sort of thing. And she's like, "So, did you miss me?" He's like, "Oh, I barely even noticed you weren't around." I'm just like, yeah, it could have led to some funny moments, especially with Ash and Gary being so vitriolic towards each other, yeah. and then Ethan's just like, oh, like when you guys are done, just let me know and I'll whoop you both. Cool.
Yeah, and you mentioned giving Brendan Swampert in the end, and however much I would love to say that he gets for Alligator, all the evidence points that he had Typhlosion. So
true.
I have to give him Typhlosion.
I was about to say, it's our video. You can do we can say whatever the hell we want.
Yes, personally, I would give him for Alligator just because that is the best Johto starter. But knowing how much has already been written and how much it actually exists telling his story, I have to give him Typhlosion just because that is in the manga, canonically in the games and the anime he has had in the past. So
I can respect that. I respect that. I couldn't do that, but. You know, it's weird because sometimes in media, Brendan has Trico, sometimes it's Mudkip. It's really confusing sometimes.
Yeah, so again, for clarity's sake, we're just going to say that he has Typhlosion. That is his birthday.
Yeah. But anyways, I guess for me, along with just like what we talked about his personality a bit, I would also obviously I would have him be nice to his Pokemon. We wouldn't want somebody to be like Paul right before Paul shows up. I'd
Hmm.
want like obviously he's cool with his Pokemon. He's very nice to makes them even when they lose. He's just like, yeah, good job, all this sort of stuff. I would also add like a tiny little thing, which I'll get into later, which admittedly gets into some somewhat dark territory. But I'll just start off by saying I would make it so Brendan has a soft spot for kids,
That
like an
seems
old,
like an
like an
interesting
old, like
idea.
for example, just like if he ever meets up with the gang, like, oh hey guys, like Max in particular would be drawn to him, like what, like Brendan's battling style, it's so cool and all that sort of things, and Brendan would be completely accepting of it. It's just like, yeah, that's fine. Like he kind of appreciates that Max respects him, but in turn, like for example, he would also see Brock as an older brother because everybody sees Brock as an older brother. It's Brock.
Well, that's because he is the older brother to
Oh damn! I didn't.
enough people, enough kids.
I wasn't thinking about that. That's a good point.
Yeah, I. So a little bit about Ethan. I'd want him, if based on how they start, I'd want him to be more on the cocky side. Um,
Man, we're making everybody cocky in this.
I know, but again, if so, we're kind of, I think, have agreed that we're going to start him off as like a rival to Ash in some way.
Right, right.
Um, so let's say um, with him, I'd say he almost takes the place of what's her name that you hate from the Johto series.
Casey.
Yes. Um, so replace her with him, but then so he loses bad in the first battle, but I'd have him again continue to grow kind of like Sawyer, uh,
Right, right,
in that state where by the time they reach the Johto League, he's on par with Ash, pretty
right,
much, at least.
right. Hey, and in terms of, would you show? Because I know for Paul they did a couple, like once, maybe twice. Would you show any of his gym battles?
I would have them run into each other probably once at a gym. I'm trying. I don't know which one.
Yeah, that's fine. I
Um,
was about to say it doesn't have to be the Miltank gym. No one needs to see. No one needs to see more of that demon cow.
yeah, I'm thinking of the ice gym or the steel gym. So towards the end, um, maybe having it be Ash loses to the gym leader first, goes off to train, or actually, I think I want it to be the steel gym. So Ash faces the steel gym leader in this timeline, then loses, goes and battles the fighting gym, and then comes back, and it's Ethan's battle with the steel gym before Ash gets his, and he
Yeah,
wins.
I would be cool with that. If I had to put him Brendan somewhere, I think mate. Like honestly, I wasn't. It's not. I didn't. I asked you this question, but I didn't really have a plan in mind. I'd probably say just out of spite, the seventh gym, so we can get the taste of thunder armor out of our mouths and out of our minds. There's no real other reason, but just for that, just like look. So which one of my gym battles are we gonna show? The seventh one. Why? Why? It's just like thunder armor. You guys wrote that? We had to. I'm
The
sorry.
only other gym I could see Brendan showing up for and having his before Ash or right after Ash's would be Norman.
I was actually gonna get to. I'm glad you brought that up because I was actually going to get to that bit. I was going to. If you hypothetically, if they didn't show Brendan's battle, I would have had him be like, because one of the things I noticed was there were a couple of trainers that they met up with a couple of times throughout the series. Yeah, imagine that. Characters of the day showing up more than once. Like they were like, "Oh, hey man, and you faced our dad. You faced our dad. Yeah, I faced Norman. Did you win? Yes, I did." And they were like, "What? No, I'm just kidding. I got whooped." But I'd have Brendan be the one person to be like, "Oh yeah, that him wasn't much of a challenge." And Max actually be like, "Are you serious?" And then they're just like, "No, I'm not like making fun of your dad or anything. It's just like he had an off day. It's just something like that." But I wouldn't make it a story. I would just make it as if Norman is this badass and he lost. how is Ash going to deal with that? Because I kind of thought the whole story with Max being upset about Norman losing thing was kind of like, I understood what they were doing with it, but I don't know, it felt kind of weird per se. Hey, especially with May being conflicted, it's just like, why wouldn't you be rooting for Ash? If Norman wins, we have to keep coming back over and over and over again.
Yeah, and I Ash had already faced Norman once because that was his first major battle in
Yeah,
Hoenn.
I keep forgetting about that. But yeah, and
That's
but
where they kidnapped Max for some reason.
yeah, that's yeah. Yeah, but getting back to that though, I would have him be very protective of Max. Like, look, a lot of people see him as a know-it-all, but I'm not going to let anybody mess with this kid because I'm going to be honest. I also thought of backstories for at least Brendan in particular. Nobody else really, but Brendan in particular, I thought of a backstory.
Yeah, especially so this was a big time. People forget how much Team Rocket was a part of the story at this point.
Right,
I think just because the last two or three series they've been not pushed to the side per se, but where they're not having a giant mech battle every single episode like they used to.
right.
So I could definitely see Max saving a Pokemon, but getting caught in the trap himself, and then Brendan coming to the rescue at that point.
Yeah, but it would be one of those things where he immediately turns off the cockiness, and honestly, it kind of comes into moments where he's like heroic. Heck, in terms of backstories, I even have an original version, and I even have a 4Kids version as to what they would have done. What they would have done, because I love 4Kids, I do, but they know how to censor stuff.
Okay.
Sometimes in a good way, and sometimes in a bad way.
Well, while you get into the backstory, I do have a quick question.
Go
Is
for it.
he Professor Birch's son?
That actually kind of ties into it.
All right, go ahead, because I'm still trying to come up with every step of
Okay, so you know how one of the things I have two ideas. One I'm gonna get the dark one out of the way. One I would have in the original version, like his parents are just dead. They're gone. They're gone. While in the original series, they could just be in 4 Kids. They could just be like, oh, his parents just aren't around. They're not focused on him, which is kind of why he's acting out. Whereas my other idea would be something along the lines of his parents putting a lot of pressure on him, and towards like the middle or towards the end of the series, he kind of breaks. It kind of shows signs of I have to keep winning. I have to keep winning, or else like what's gonna happen? And then maybe like he starts little bit of a losing streak, like Dawn had, except with Dawn, she kind of kept it inside her. I'd have Brendan not necessarily lash out, but I'd have him like let it out a little bit and like kind of just I don't want to say lose it, but you understand what I mean. Just kind of snap it sometimes.
Yeah. So would you have like a doubles tournament where this kind of comes out where he's not lashing out at his Pokemon? Because I know you previously said that he's very good with his Pokemon, but like he lashes like he's partnered with Ash or May, and he lashes out at them instead to
Yeah,
because he's been losing, and then they start struggling in the tournament and they're barely winning or barely
yeah.
getting on.
Maybe he snaps at his Pokemon like once, and then at the end of the episode, he's like breaking the. You could even have him cry and be like, "I'm so sorry." And of course they forgive him by the end, and he would definitely wouldn't be the type person to be because like I said, if his parents are putting pressure on him or they're not around for whatever reason, they would be kind of his surrogate family in a sense. And I'd have Professor Birch show up a little more often in the series because I feel like he showed up like 2 episodes every now and then it just disappeared forever. I'd kind of have him kind of demonstrate to Brendan, like, look, you can be the best trainer in the world, but you can also relax a little bit because Professor Birch was kind of known for playing with Pokemon. Despite the fact everyone's like, oh, he's researching, and he would always be like, no, I'm playing. I'm just like, okay. So I would kind of similar to I would have them kind of have similar to like a Jiraiya and Naruto or a Might Guy and Rock Lee or Piccolo and Gohan, basically kind of a surrogate dad without being his actual dad. I don't know. Because it always seemed weird to me that if they were related, Professor Birch never brought him up. That's a little strange, don't you think?
Yeah, I can understand that. So he might be more of like a research fellow or something
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah, it would be heck. You could even throw out at times just like yeah, like oh yeah, Professor Birch helps you out. Yeah, he did. Thanks so much, Dad. And then he just freezes and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. Forget I said that.
So while you've been talking about that, I've been thinking about how I'd want Ethan's back story to be. And a lot of it would be that his dad would be a pokeathlon champion,
Okay.
and like he's considered like the best at this. And as a kid, he put pressure on Ethan to be the to follow in his footsteps, and so that's kind of the start of it. And that when he shows up as his cocky self, especially at the beginning, as I said, he's going to mellow. I don't know if I said this. I want him to mellow out throughout the series.
I'd like to hope so. He
Uh,
just gets worse as the series goes on.
no, but so pretty much my idea is that because of who his dad is and how much training his dad put him through as a kid, even though it's like he got the physical activity, so he's doing it to his Pokemon. They how to put it. He wins like all his battles up until Ash, uh, and loses spectacularly. But he thinks he's really like a top-notch trainer. He's going to go undefeated. He's at like 100 wins or something in a row without losing since getting his Pokemon.
Hmm.
Loses to Ash, and that kind of doesn't give him a loss in confidence, like you said, or like you had for Brendan. More of he starts realizing maybe the way I've been doing this, where he was more not tall level, but he was a bit more strict and a bit more hard actual physical training than actual battle training.
Yeah, it reminds me of similar to that episode we talked about the Pokemon where in the first series AJ was training his Pokemon and they were doing like obstacle courses, all that stuff. And
Yeah.
he did still care about them, but he was a little more strict when it came to his training. Obviously, your idea would probably be done a lot better because that episode was not very good.
Yeah, no, he's not using the whip or anything. Like if I remember correct, the episode you talked about.
Yeah.
No, it's like they're lifting boulders or something random based on the Pokemon or whatever their ability is, and he's training them, and he feels the pressure from his dad, of course, but uh, it's not the main focus. It's more of how he was training the Pokemon. Is the starter issue, and his cockiness comes again from winning all those battles and how he was raised to this point. And then
So you're saying his first major loss would be against Ash?
yeah, as I said, he's kind of following oh god, what's her name? We just talked about her.
Dawn?
No, the character
Casey.
Casey. I'm glad you remember it.
Yeah, I'm not proud of it. But I guess you're talking about first major losses. I would have Brendan's beat Steven. Because I remembered Ash had, when he won his seventh badge, he was all cocky, like, aha, I'm going to win everything. And then he faced Drake of the Hoenn Elite Four, not the other Drake. It's weird how two prominent characters are named Drake, but whatever.
And both
Ever.
use Dragon.
Yeah, weird. And I would have him lose to Steven after kind of like getting caught, and then he kind of realized, okay, I have to be better about this. But instead of him like winning the next time against somebody else, he loses. Like heck, maybe have him lose to Morrison, and Morrison kind of gets an upset win, and to kind of think, holy crap, if Ash struggles this much against Brendan, but Morrison was able to win, that makes Morrison look like a really good trainer. Or it just shows that Brendan's just slipping more down the slope, which is I'm kind of trying to do both, so it works out.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide if I want him like I'm thinking for Ethan whether he follows kind of the how it ends in X and Y, where he would, even though he's been growing so much through the series, he loses in the end, or if he would actually beat Ash. in the Johto League. I'm trying to
Yeah,
decide.
I'm admittedly I hadn't even got admittedly I had like 10 other ideas for Rendon, and then the second I start thinking, should he win the end? I'm like, I'll get back to that, and then I just I never did. I never did.
I think I would have him beat Ash, but kind of follow the Harrison or Harrison. No, it is Harrison, the guy at the end of Johto, isn't
Tyson's the guy who won in Ho, and Harrison's the one who won Johto, I believe.
it? No, he beat Ash, but I think he loses.
Yeah.
I'd have him do that. He beats Ash and at the end in the Johto League, but loses in like the semifinal.
Okay. All right. So let me ask you something, because I talked about this a bit. Would you have Ethan have any particular dynamic with Misty or Brock or Gary or anybody along those lines?
Um, he'd probably have something with Misty. He'd flirt with her, and she'd flirt back. I have a feeling,
Oh,
and it would annoy Ash out this, and Brock would randomly give him love advice that never works.
then yeah, I was about to say that's the key thing. It never is able to work. Because I talked about how Brendan would look up to Brock in some sense. Like, he actually does seem to have a good head on his shoulders, and how Max would he would kind of take a leadership role for Max in some sense. Heck, I like, just for a quick thing about later, I even throw Wally in there to some events, but we'll get to him. We'll get to him later. I would have him kind of be kind of like Gary like to Ash, but even so, they still find moments where they get along and agree. But the thing about you kind of notice how Ash seemingly, whenever like Team Rocket storms off the Pokemon, Ash will like jump off cliffs or something to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would have Brendan be a little more smart about it. He'd be like, "What the hell? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing this whole time? Just send another Pokemon out there and have it do it." Like, I'd have Brendan kind of scold Ash with, "You could have gotten hurt. You could have gotten hurt. You could have failed to catch Pokemon. Come on. You have to be a little smarter about that." Despite the fact that this dude kind of bumbles from time to time.
Okay, yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. And I'd even have in very early on when May says, "Oh, I'm a coordinator," and I'd have Brendan be like, "Coordinator? No, that's not." And I kind of have him like kind of scoff at it at first. Honestly, I'd kind of have her and May and Brendan have a little bit more of a vitrolic relationship than him and Ash. Like, him and Ash just like get along for the most part, but I'd have him and May kind of start off at ends, despite the fact that they're not necessarily rivals to each other.
Okay. Do you think that he would eventually compete in a contest and come
I
to
would I would
appreciate it?
I would have. I don't know if I would have him compete, but I would. Here's the thing, a lot of people seem to forget that May kind of had an overconfidence arc. Like, when they went back to Petalburg and she's like, "Oh, I've won 2 ribbons, it's okay," thing, and everyone's like, "No, you're amazing, you're the queen, you're the princess of Ho," and all this other stuff. They inflated her ego. Oh, and right around when like she lost to the contest, as Nurse Joy was the one to be like, "Hey, you're being too hard. You're Bulbasaur. Like, you're getting overconfident." Like, I wouldn't have Nurse Joy. I'd have Nurse Joy do that, but I'd also kind of have Brendan be like, "Look, you can't do stuff like that. I don't care. I don't care about what you do with these contests." And of course, he'd come around to appreciate them down the line. But I'd be like, you have to be in sync with your Pokemon. If you're amazing and they're not, it's going to show. If they're amazing and you're not, it's going to show. You have to, like, I kind of have her give her, as they called on TV tropes, the reason you suck speech.
Okay, yeah, I could see that. Like, would this be later on? So it's like after his loss, where he started having issues.
Yeah.
He's now
Or
giving
maybe
Purdy
like,
advice.
or maybe like right as he's starting to put things together, because it's kind of like he could kind of be like, "Looks like we're both going on this journey together," like kind of showing, hey, somebody who's going through the same thing you're going through is the person who's able to pull you out of this funk.
Okay. Now you also mentioned Wally just a few minutes ago, and I wanted to know what you were going to do with him, or how you were.
Honestly, I don't. Here's the thing: I don't. When it comes to, let's keep the same 4: Ash, Brendan, Morrison, Tyson. I don't think Wally would be like as good as them. Like, you could have him win some gym badges, even have him compete in the tournament. but I don't think I would have had him win. Like maybe Morrison beats him, or maybe Ash beats him, or something like that. Because to me, like as much as I like Wally's arc in the games, I find it kind of weird that all like you beat him, and he's like, "All right, I'm gonna get stronger," and then as you're progressing through the game, he's ahead of you the whole time, and you get to the Elite Four, and he's like, "Nah, we're battling first." I'd have Wally's ascent to being a good battler take a little more time. Like even towards the end of Home, heck, I'd even have Battle Frontier. Like he's like I'd have him lose against Ash, but I'd have him be like so close to being Ash. And heck, if that's the case, if they had done it well enough when we did our Pokemon journeys, who we want characters we want to come back thing, I would have said Wally for his like maybe he beats Ash, or maybe he's far ahead in the coronation ceremony, and I would have talked about that. And then you would have said, "Oh, well, I want Lieutenant Surge to come back." I'm like, "Of course. Why change now?"
Well, he needs to come back.
Well,
I want to know about this war.
I need to know about these horrible war stories. Which, actually, I wouldn't say we're going to get to that. Well, I do have some other dark stuff to get into, but I feel like I've been talking a lot. You go ahead.
All right. Since I asked you about Wally, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about, I guess, Silver. I don't know if he has another name. I don't remember him ever doing it.
Not off the top of my head, no.
So he's pretty much Paul. I mean, there's no getting around that. He was Paul before Paul existed.
Yeah, he was the original douchebag.
Now, again, he had honorable goals, and you saw that from towards the beginning where he wanted to defeat Team Rocket himself. Again, in this case, it was because he wanted to, based on what we know from the games and the events they ran in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. It's because Giovanni's his father. So.
Yeah, and the whole time I was just thinking, oh, that's fine. I'm doing the same thing. Let's be best friends.
Now, again, this could lead to something interesting where in Johto, Team Rocket is officially defeated by, at this point, the trio, Ethan, and Silver.
Right.
And then, if you really want Jesse, James, and Meowth to continue, they go to Hoenn and join one of the evil teams there and try to help them take over the world, and are still trying to capture Pokemon for their new bosses.
That is a bold thing. I thought you were just going to say something like they're spies for Team Rocket or something, because I find it weird that they say, hey, don't bring any Pokemon on from other regions because you don't want to be stand out too much. I'm like, meanwhile, you're walking around with Team Rocket outfits. They're going to notice you one way or sooner or later.
No, I'd see them like joining Team Magma, or maybe even having their own side arc where James joins Team Aqua and Jesse joins Team Magma, and Meowth's going back between the two of them, trying to get them to come back together.
Yeah. Can I add one tiny thing to this?
Go ahead.
When Silver encounters Jesse James, like, because we all know the Torps and Team Rocket, they don't get along, but when they need to, they will work together towards a common goal.
Mm-hmm.
I would have Silver be downright antagonistic to Jesse James and Meowth. Like, granted, we know deep down they're good people, but I would see Silver just doesn't see that. Like, he sees the R and he sees red.
Yeah, I completely agree. It could be that they're battling, we'll say the bounty hunter from the fourth movie. And Silver and Team Rocket are involved because I remember correctly, they all battle him.
Yeah.
Well, when Jesse and James will show up later, and Silver turns his Pokemon on them and knocks them out of the fight before he's even done like half the damage needed to take out the bounty hunter.
Yeah, man, we're making Johto so much more dark than it was in the original. I would be downright scared to watch this show at times, and I'd be like, no, this is worth it.
Especially because, based on what I'm saying, it leads into yours more than likely.
Yeah, but also there was a lot of filler in Johto, and this could have curbed that a bit.
True, very true.
There was a lot of filler in Diamond and Pearl too, but I don't have as many ways of fixing that. But I guess you kind of led into mine because you were talking about a little bit of darker themes.
Mhm.
Do you remember like May's stance on Pokemon when she first started her journey?
Wasn't she completely terrified of all Pokemon, or just didn't
I
like them enough to
she
hate them?
well they told this really silly weird story where like first of all when May first starts she's like, oh, I just want to travel, I don't really want to do anything involving Pokemon, which I'm like, that's unique, that's different. I'm glad they said that. But the reason she said that was apparently when she was a little kid she was swimming at the beach and her parents were like relaxing on the sand. Weird they didn't go out with this like 4-year-old child, but like what, but sure, whatever. And she encountered a tentacle and she started like petting it and everything. But a whole swarm of tentacles surrounded her and it was freaking her out. And then her mom, rather than running out and being like, oh, my daughter's over there, I gotta save her. Instead, she threw a Pokeball at May because she thought she looked like a tentacle.
Well, wasn't she wearing the weird hat
Yeah, she
thing?
was wearing like a blue swim cap, but even then, I wouldn't be like traumatized or like it's a little embarrassing, and hardly even used that played that over the intercom because Max ended up spilling the beans about it. But to me, I would have had like this is where like when we don't reference the manga that much, I would have kind of referenced the manga. Maybe there's another reason. Maybe she's legitimately scared. Here, like we all know, like if you read the manga we all know what's under Brendan's hat. Spoiler alert if you haven't read. 5 4 3 2 1, there's a scar under his head from when he got attacked by a salamence, and it's later revealed that he protected Sapphire, or May, however you want to call her, in the manga. And it kind of takes them several years when they meet up again to realize, oh snap, we've known each other since basically we were little kids. Now, you don't have to include the scar part. I mean, I personally would just because it helps the story, but knowing 4 kids and everything, you could just be like, oh, there was a Salamence attack. And heck, every time, like, if somebody has a Salamence and uses it against Brendan could, like, freeze up and be like, oh, like, you could even have an arc where you kind of try and satiate his fear of it, but I would do something a little bit different than what most people were thinking.
Go ahead.
I would have because they talked about this in the Swablu episode when they rescued Swablu and they tried to cure its fear of flying because of everything it went through. Everybody was saying, okay, just do this, imagine all of this stuff and everything. I would have Brock, Max, and Ash be the ones who are kind of like, yeah, just imagine all this so you don't have to like freak out around the Salamence. But I would have maybe the one person who's like, it's okay to be scared. Like, it's a dragon type Pokemon with fangs and like sharp wings and everything. You're allowed to be scared. You just can't let it control you. You don't have to get over your fear or anything, but just like do your best. And I would try and write them a little bit closer because obviously they can't hate each other the whole series.
Okay. Would you have him in the end actually get a Salamence? Like in like whatever the final episode he's in, he's got a fully evolved Salamence on his team now?
I wouldn't, but I'd have him be like, if there was a Salamence, I would actually have like an episode like if there's an injured Salamence, he's the person who has to take care of it or something. Whether he catches it or not is up to the other writers, because we've seen episodes where they heal Pokemon, take care of them, and they just decide, no, we're not catching this, which sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't.
Okay, I can respect that. I mean, I personally think it would be really cool, especially if there's a gap where, like, after the episode where he gets healed, or not healed, but kind of overcomes his fear. To
Yeah.
later on, he all of a, maybe not all of a sudden, maybe you see him catch a Bagon, and then eventually he ends up with the Salamence.
Yeah, somebody actually ended up writing a story where all Brendan, May, and Wally, and I would have all 3 of them interact. Like maybe they get separated from everybody else, and all 3 of them have to work together, just as a callback to the game or something. I would have that. I would have an episode like I did read a story where they were handing out Pokemon eggs, and Brendan's hatched, and it was a Bagon, and he was noticeably nervous. Like everyone else was like, "Oh, cool! I got all this other Pokemon things," and but Brendan was like, "Bagon, yay!" So I thought that was, if that leads to what I thought it was decent storytelling.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm trying to think of, so the main mechanic of each game that was added. In Johto, it was breeding, and then in Hoenn, it was double battles.
Double battles, yes.
I mean, for breeding, there were a few episodes, but I could definitely see that being one of the big episodes with Ethan in it. Is when the gang shows up and Ethan's at the daycare helping take care of it. Maybe they're his grandparents or something, kind of like how they are.
I was about to say in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, that's kind of what they were. So that would be a decent callback.
But I'm trying to think. I mean, besides a double battle tournament, there's not really a good way of including that for Brendan. And there is like a story arc kind of thing.
I mean, maybe kind of like because you said breeding, was it? Like maybe he finds a way to become like a better Pokemon breeder, maybe thanks to a couple of episodes with Brock. Maybe that sort of thing. Because to me, as much as I like the dynamics that Ash has with his rivals, it is kind of interesting to think, well, what were his dynamics like with these other characters? Heck, Paul's dynamic with Dawn was hilarious at times because she was breaking up a fight between them like very early on. She's like, guys, come on, just stay in once battle. And Paul just sort of looks at her and she's like, wait, what's wrong? And he's like, what's wrong? Who are you? Like, did he forget who? And she gets pissed about it. She's like, my name's Dawn, mister. And he's just like, I don't remember. And I'm like, this son of a bitch. And I don't know, the whole time Dawn and Paul in particular really seemed at ends with each other. But like I said, I'd have Brendan be a little nicer about it. Like you can keep the edginess of Paul, but you can have Brendan be, like I said, bumbling, kind of, obviously not too much. I don't need this guy tripping on his own shoelaces or anything, but just every now and then he falls on his face and just gets up like nothing's wrong.
Yeah, and as I said, I think Ethan is more just cocky when it comes to Pokemon battles based on who his father is and then who he is and how he was raised. And then he gets more mellow in battle and as a person as the series goes on, pretty much.
Yeah. Now, I guess we're avoiding the Dawn fan in the room. Do you have like an idea of a team Ethan would have?
I've got bits and pieces. Of course, I said Typhlosion to start. That would be his start with Cynical based on all the other media. I'm sticking with that just because.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm not gonna pull where he gets the other starters. He gets the one.
Yeah, I was about to say
maybe he gets an egg after his team for one of the other starters, but it's not part of his main team.
Yeah, so I can understand that.
Probably do kind of going, this is his final team. This is the team he uses in the Johto League, or if he shows up again, this is his 6-man team that's like his best.
Yeah.
So he would have a Steelix it's one of the more powerful Johto Pokemon at this point.
Right.
I actually had an interesting idea. I want him to have a Heracross and have a rivalry with Ash's Heracross.
That's good. I like that.
And it could be that they both catch him in like the same episode. I could even see like a later episode with the Heracross, there being a female one with the heart-shaped one, and that both Heracrosses are fighting to.
It seems like I was about to say those types of episodes happen a lot in Pokemon, like Pokemon falling in love with each other and like fighting over it. It's a really weird trope, but it would work. It would work.
I'm going to continue the trope because, like all those other episodes, she falls for a pincer.
That's horrible, you bastard.
And both Heracrosses are just comforting each other, like in the corner, kind of like when they had Brock sit in the corner and drag his finger across the ground, but it's just Heracrosses in the corner patting each other on the back.
Yeah, but I that would definitely work. So Heracross, Typhlosion, Steelix, that's okay.
Yeah. The arc where I'd have him be a big part of the arc where they rescued Larvitar. But pretty much he'd replace Ash so that it becomes his Pokemon and evolves into Tyranitar. He chooses to keep it.
Okay.
So that's 4. I'm trying to think. He'd probably have a Hitmontop. It's not my favorite Johto Pokemon, but It just seems to fit with his personality, I would
Yeah,
think.
yeah, I can side with that. Hitmonlee, I always liked Hitmonlee, but I understand that.
Yeah, I just find its design weird compared to the other two.
Yeah, I was about to say it's far from the strangest evolution we've gotten though.
And I'd have probably his final. That is.
Yeah, that's 5.
Yeah, final Pokemon. I know Ash already has one, but it's not going to be.
Can you say that one more time for me?
Noctowl.
Noctowl, okay. Would you? But it probably would it be a shiny though? Because Ash already has a shiny. Okay, cool.
No, I would have like the realization that Ash is shiny would come from his rather than the guy. The way Ash finds out his is shiny is that I'm pretty sure it's from the episode where they're flying in a plane in the Whirl Island.
Yeah, it was a. Yeah, I can get on board with that because as we were setting up earlier today when we tried doing this originally, I actually did come up with a team for Brendan.
Okay.
All right. Obviously, we talked about his Swampert or his Mudkip, but one of the things I would have Swampert kind of represent like, hey, I can be a goofball sometimes, like a prankster, but when you need me to be somebody, I'll smack somebody if I have to. Especially considering whenever May saw somebody from the Mudkip or Swampert line, it would always just blast her with water, which would be a kind of a funny joke. And have her kind of feel like, wait, is this the same Mudkip from Professor? And then it just blasts her again or something like that. Now, obviously, we love dragons, correct?
Okay, so quick.
Sorry, go ahead. Sure.
Well, yes, but quick question about would like his first episode be the one where they're on the SS Anne or whatever the haunted ship is?
It could be. I might be okay with that. I mean, I liked Tommy. I think that's what his name was.
I don't remember. All I remember is that there was the Swampert on the ship, and it was scared or something because of it had been abandoned. Pretty much.
It thought it got abandoned, but then Tommy came back and they made up and everything.
But not have that monster. I just imagined it like they're searching the ship and they split up or something.
Yeah, and that is how I would kind of have them meet. I wouldn't have them all meet Brendan at the same time. I'd kind of have them kind of meet like maybe he meets Brock first and then May. But obviously, like we talked about before, it turns out he's known May since they were like really little kids. Like maybe their parents were friends or something like that. But
quick idea, just throwing this out here, the way he meets Brock, because Brock isn't there at the beginning, but so Brock shows up in Hoenn, gets beat by Brendan, and tells Ash that he met this really kind of insistent guy about battling him, and he got his butt kicked by him, and then he ran off to challenge the next person.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I would also kind of have a running joke of he beats Brock early on, but at the same time, he's like, so where's that gym badge? Where's that gym badge, Playboy? He doesn't have to say Playboy. Actually, he could. I'd be fine with that. But you understand. Like every now and then he brings up, is like, you still owe me a badge, dude. Let's bring it out. But I'd have this other Pokemon kind of be Flygon because we all love dragons, and of course he wouldn't be jumping at the chance to have a Salamence until, of course, he went through his arc. So I'd have him maybe he tells a story about how he rescued a Trapinch or a Vibrava or something like that. And I'd kind of almost have it be the mom of the team, because it seems like a lot of flying Pokemon are the moms of teams in certain stuff, like Togekiss, Swell. Even if they're not necessarily female, you kind of understand what I mean. Kind of representing his kindness towards like other kids, just because that's how it would tie in. He's nicer to kids because his childhood wasn't always easy.
I can understand that.
Sableye, admittedly, I just think it's cool, but I also kind of feel like there would be times where, not that necessarily he's crazy, but he gets kind of like energetic and like kind of loses track of stuff sometimes. And Sableye kind of comes off as a psycho at some points.
I could see Sableye running off and triggering them meeting up.
Yeah. Like, maybe it's a case of, like, because I remember the Absol episode where everybody in the town's like, man, forget that Absol. It's the one who keeps causing all these disasters, when in all reality, it's just a case of, Absol is warning you about not causing it. But I'd have Sableye story go a little different. Like Ren's like, look, people around here, they're gonna be going after you for a pretty long time. Why don't you just come with me? You can He could even say, kind of jokingly say, you can wreak as much havoc as you want with me. And Sableye's just like, yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
This is where things get kind of like, remember, we all know the story of Charmander and how just first of all, fuck Damien. We can all agree on that. The way he treated that Charizard. I'd have for his next Pokemon go through a little bit of kind of a different thing, like because we all know we love Pokemon, but some Pokemon are better in battles than others.
That is very true.
Yeah. But in the anime, he could kind of learn from Ash. It's not necessarily about how strong your Pokemon is, it's how you use it and that sort of thing. So I would have, this is going to be a little weird, I'd have him have a Furret.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe he comes across, maybe it, like, you can even explain this in flashback, he comes across it and he kind of learns, oh man, somebody abandoned this Pokemon. But he even thinks to himself, it doesn't matter how badly I want to win, and I can't let you just be on your own like that. And he kind of leading to how Ash treats Chimchar in the next series. Like, he's very affectionate with it. Honestly, I would kind of give him a kind of how Cacnea and James interact. Every time he releases it, she jumps up and just starts attacking his face. Kind of similar to that, but just showing more of his nicer side.
Okay.
Manectric, just Manectric. I admittedly I didn't have anything for that.
Tight coverage.
Yeah, and Shedinja just kind of represents kind of what he was going through, kind of feeling empty towards some points. Plus, Shedinja's just a cool Pokemon, provided you get past some. Maybe he finds a way to get past some of its type advantages, so it lasts longer than most.
Yeah, it's good if you know how to use it. And
basically, I'd have him become kind of similar to Chaz Princeton in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. He has all these like power cards and all this other sorts of stuff, but he goes from power to kind of technique.
Okay, yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah. Also, a lot of people, one of the things that people, and I'm going to shut up for a little bit after this, but a lot of people seem to think that in terms of Pokemon, like you can either love Brendan and hate Drew, or hate Brendan and love Drew. I'd kind of find a way to flip that. Like they actually kind of get along. Like he's like, I don't really care about any of this contest stuff, but like they're still friends and stuff.
I could see them being like they went to school together or something.
Yeah, remember when that was a thing? School?
Yeah, we got an entire series based on it.
Yeah, basically. Like, not to mention, I do find it kind of hilarious because I remember in that Swablu episode, May ended up saying like, "No, I'm gonna stick with this Swablu." Max is like, "Oh no, May, you can't talk May out of anything." I remember this one time when she was in school. I'm like, "Wait, y'all went to school? Okay, that's weird." And he's like, well, oh, and she had a crush on this boy in school, so she ended up, and she covers his mouth like, I was such a child. I'm just like, I need to hear the rest of that story. I don't know what that tied into. I just thought it was funny.
Now, something I would like to see in with Brendan to go with his relationship with Max is in the episode with Worlds. They kind of, instead of May being the one who catches it and races it, even though that doesn't happen, have Brendan catch it and say, when you turn 10, come find me.
Come find. When you're ready, come find me. And at the same time, Wally's like, but I already have a route. You're getting.
This was a good Max episode. That's why.
This was a good Wally. This was a good Max episode. I promise you'll get one. You might come back in Journeys too. Really? Probably not.
But yeah, so something I would want Ethan to do, especially if they made the breeders his grandparents, or the daycare people his grandparents, is that he always has an egg with him. So his team will always be like 5 of the Pokemon I went over, and maybe they switch out on occasion, but he always has an egg with him, a Pokemon. And of course, based on the anime, so you see the design on the outside, so you can kind of guess what it is. But
Yeah, that's really is something they should have tapped into with the games.
especially later on, once it became easy to code in different colors based on the eggs.
Yeah, but I do like that though. That does it kind of adds like a more humane side to things. Like, hey, I could have a full team of 6 or something, hey, but I'm also gonna take care and nurture this egg and make sure nothing happens to it until it's ready to hatch. I like that. I like that side of him.
Yeah, and it's always my grandparents told me that the trainer decided he didn't want the egg at this time, so I decided to raise it until it's
You know,
you can't always reject the eggs in the games.
yeah, I know, but I would hope that if they did that, wouldn't make a whole deal about, oh, who wouldn't want a Pokemon? Like, sometimes you just can't take care of it. As long as you, like, give it a good home and everything, it's fine. Like, we've seen people... Remember, that girl gave Brock that Vulpix for a bit. Like, we didn't think less of her for it. We're like, oh, cool, Brock gets a Vulpix. I'm sure he'll use it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that, oh, I know how to take care of these eggs that my grandparents taught me when I was younger. Now I'm taking care of this egg for this trainer who wants the Pokemon but doesn't know how to take care of the egg.
Yeah. Yeah, I could
go into details about actually taking care of the egg stage of it.
Yeah, like maybe, hey, heck, maybe he maybe he kind of teaches Brock some methods. Like, hey, if you ever get an egg, my grandparents were like daycare people, so like maybe Brock takes notes on it or something like that, and he references it later.
And as I said, again, his relationship when Misty's around is that he's flirting with her, and Brock is kind of encouraging it for some reason. Brock is Ethan's wingman with Misty, and Misty flirts back, but always ends up rejecting him.
Yeah, that could have led to some pretty funny moments. I understand. I can get behind that. I guess I might as well kind of jump into that. Like, I would have every now and then like them be like, just like, oh well, you seem kind of hard. You seem kind of hard on me. It's just like, no, I'm just toughening her up. I just want to help her out in that regard. It's just like, oh, is that real? Maybe it's because you like her. And he could freak out like, no. Well, every now and then showing signs like, maybe?
Like this handful of episodes, they'll end up, when the gang ends up split up, somehow he ends up with her.
Yeah. Heck, would kind of tie it back to that. Because here's the thing. One of the things I don't like about the Hoenn series is the Team Aqua, Team Magma arc, because I just felt like it was just such an underwhelming finale to it. It just didn't work out all that well. I would have like Kyogre and Groudon or something like that. Heck, maybe somebody can have a Salamence. It's like we talked about his fear, because we all know Ash will do like whatever it takes, even if it means throwing his own body on the line, which should have killed him at some point. That's not me hating on Ash or anything. That's just me saying he should not still be alive at this point, just based on statistics.
Yes, he's jumped off multiple cliffs, gone over multiple waterfalls, been trapped underwater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would have Brendan kind of be like, one of the things he learns from Ash is sometimes you can't like think about this stuff. Sometimes you just have to go and do something. Heck, I would kind of have him. I would have him maybe. I don't know if I want to say be the hero of the arc, but kind of play a major role in saving the day. And I would kind of have him like maybe he saves May at some point, or May returns the favor and saves him, and she's like, actually, no, I would have her save him, and she's like, it's just like when we were kids, huh? And he's like, you knew the whole time. Because I would have him know, but I would have him never say anything about it. I don't know why I prefer that over both of them not knowing, but to me, I would have him remember and just be like, no, you don't owe me anything. That's why I didn't say anything.
Okay. Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. Not to mention, the one thing I've been neglecting to say for some reason, I would have him be very unpopular in the region. Like, to
what
start.
Do you mean by that?
Now, like, what I mean is, like, people are like, well, he's a great battler and everything, but he's like, unlike Gary, who was like such a piece of crap, but everybody, like, he had all these fans around the world. I would have Brendan be kind of the opposite. I'd have Brendan still be a jerk, but I'd have people kind of be like, I don't want to watch his battles. He's all this, and that. But as the story progresses, more and more people see, okay, this is kind of an act. he's a good person deep down, sort of thing. Kind of like how, and it's gonna sound so nerdy. Kind of like how wrestlers in real, like we know a lot of them are just playing characters. We know a lot of villains are nice people in real life. It's just kind of a facade sort of thing. And May would kind of be like, huh, almost like you're putting on a contest, and he should be like, shut up, shut up. I am not like you. We are better than you. Shut up.
All this is funny because if I remember correctly, in the manga, isn't he a contestant?
I think he was like he wanted to be one like very early on in his life.
Because I think they make fun of it in the Rubier uh, series that it's on
That's
YouTube.
yeah, they did, which like you could maybe tie back to that maybe at some point like somebody catches him like knitting something or like sewing something for his Pokemon. It's just like, dude, what do you do? Which admittedly, depending on how you said it, would not hold up because like men can sew. What are you talking about? But still.
I've got an idea. They meet, have his mom be alive or something, and they meet her without him in the episode as like a main part,
Sure.
and she starts showing them pictures, and it's him dressed up as a kid for like
Oh,
he wanted to be a contestant when he was like 5, and they've got he's in a little costume or
yeah.
something, and you cut to him wherever he is, and he sneezes.
What the? What was that? What was that? That could honestly work. Honestly, his parents don't need to be like dead or anything, but I do like the idea that Professor Birch is kind of his surrogate dad. Whether he's like his actual dad or but I just find the idea of a surrogate dad far more interesting because he just never brought him up. If he's his real son, if he is your legit son, say something like bring him up. I don't know. It's weird.
I'm trying to think. I mean, for his relation for Ethan's relationship with Elm, it's more of probably a research fellow, kind of how they are with the current professor
Yeah.
uh, in the anime, but they're not living with him. He's doing basic research for Elm. That's about it.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can understand that too. I can get behind that. And it's okay. So the thing is, we also talk about like I mentioned a little bit before how Ash kind of teaches Brendan something. I would have Brendan kind of teach Ash. Like I talked about earlier, like he isn't well liked, but as the series progresses, more he gains more and more fans. He can even have a whole army of fangirls if he wants. That's fine. I would kind of have Brendan teach Ash. Look, you don't have to be liked by everybody. You can do what, because one of the problems I had, and I know it's a different series, but Diamond and Pearl Ash was every time Paul showed up, he's like, "Hey, Paul, what's going on?" I'm like, he doesn't care about you, dude. Dude, let your actions do the talking. I would kind of have Brendan show like, let your actions do the talking. Hey, don't beg for their attention. Make them notice you. Maybe that sort of thing. Admittedly, I don't know how to go about that, but I think people can put it together. People can come up with a better idea than I can on it.
I can understand that. God, I think I keep saying that. No, but I think that could lead to a very interesting dynamic with Paul, where Ash isn't always friendly with Paul. He's more constantly just fine. I'll win this time with
Yeah.
Paul.
Yeah, heck, when May returned in Diamond Pearl, you could have Brendan show up and kind of meet Paul and kind of give Ash the side, like, what are you doing? Stop begging for his attention. Make him notice you. You obviously he wouldn't be as mean. He wouldn't be as mean as like Paul or anything, but it would kind of be a callback and just be like everything I taught you, and you're still not learning it. What's wrong with you? I don't care if people notice me or not. I don't care if people pay attention or not. Or not. If you don't ask for his attention, get it, demand it, take it for yourself. That sort of thing. And because, like I said, it seemed kind of weird that Ash was like way too into all like, hey, notice me, notice me, notice me. Like, no, dude, you're looking super desperate like right now.
But I'm kind of out of information unless you have something else you want to go over.
What like a little bit of a tiny thing is I would have like I would kind of like we've kind of talked about how Brendan would play a bigger part to like make the not the Diamond and Pearl, Jesus, the Aqua and Magma story more interesting because and then people would be like, "Hey, you saved it. We're so proud of you." But I would have Brendan be like, "Wait a minute. I save all of your lives and you now start to pay attention. You now start to care about me." Because we know the trope, anime heroes when they're like, "Hey," when they go from love to hate it, and will go from hate to love. They're all like, "Hey, good job. We're really proud of you." And the hero's like, "Okay, I guess I love you guys." Nice, but no, I'd have Brendan like kind of be like, "No, I'm still gonna be an ass. I'm still gonna be me." And then at the tournament, when everybody went, when he does well but gets like a standing ovation or something, that's when he mellows out to probably the degree we want him at.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that would work as like an overall arc that, because again, that really does not make sense with people change and love everybody else. So
Yeah,
yeah,
like you don't have to make it super dramatic. Like he doesn't have to call each individual person saying screw you." Even though that I would personally like that, but I understand this. We're trying to make this more for kids.
I could see him almost doing the old Gary smell you later thing.
Or or just at the end he's just like, "And I just want to thank you guys for all the so thank you, good night, and I love none of you." And he just leaves. He just leaves. Like, forget this. Forget all this crap. But anyway, I wouldn't really like. Hey, okay, so I have a question for you in terms, and I'll make this kind of quick for Brendan's side of things.
Okay.
We talked about him coming back in Diamond and Pearl. Would he just happen to be there, or would it be revealed he and May were traveling together, or something like that? That's kind of the thing I'm conflicted on.
I'd have like in the first episode, um, Don and Brock run into May, uh, and then Ash is off doing something else and runs into Brendan and just thinks, "Oh, it's a coincidence." And in the end, it's revealed maybe not that they are traveling together at the end.
Yeah, I was also kind of thinking at the point, like when they come back, and it's just and she, because we one of the things we know about May is she loves food. Which same, I get it. But the one of the things I'd kind of have Brendan kind of pick up being a great cook from Brock. I'd kind of have him be maybe surpass Brock in some aspects of that, but don't make a huge deal about it. And she kind of talks about it, and she's like, and they kind of play off it like innocently. It's just like, "So you and your Pokemon, you kind of need to cook." Okay, it's like, "Yeah, maybe." It's like, "Oh well, I know a couple of cooks, myself included, so maybe every now and then, if I find you, I'll make you guys something." She's like, "Maybe you would just travel with us," and he's just like, "Fine, whatever." But deep down, he's excited to be traveling with a friend because he's been like we talked about. He's been kind of by himself a lot. So when he finds somebody to be like, "Hey, we're gonna be good for a while," like you could say that. You don't even have to put them together in the end or anything because this is Pokemon. But you could have them like kind of resume their friendship when they were kids.
Okay, so I just thought of something. So
Go for it.
for Ethan, based on how I described his relationship with his dad, just to make it clear, it's not an abusive relationship.
Of course not.
His dad wanted him to follow in his footsteps, and that involved physical training him before he even got a Pokemon. And maybe in the end, he doesn't want to be a Pokeathlon athlete with his Pokemon. He wants to be, maybe he wants to battle the gym leader, or just he wants to travel. That's what he wants to do right now. And in the end, like the way I would see him coming back would be I would have him have an arc where he gets into a better relationship with his dad. His dad accepts that he's not going to follow in his footsteps. He has his own dreams. And then he, again, in the Sinnoh, when they have the Pokeathlon people show up, they could have him come and he's supporting his dad as his dad's doing a tour of it. So that kind of replaces that arc. Maybe Lyra comes with him, but it's he's part of it as well.
Heck, he could have done something in X and Y with like Rhyhorn racing. Like he shows up like once, maybe twice.
yeah, I almost want to have it be that he doesn't quite know what he really wants to do with his Pokemon and stuff. Like
Yeah.
he's so he could even show up in the later series, so he could show up and do a contest and Hoenn randomly and say, it was fun, but it's not for me, and
Yeah,
move on.
I could kind of vibe with that. Also, like, just yeah, I could see that. Anything else we can go over? I mean, we can always do like a follow up video about these same characters, but I don't know how much more we have to say on. In all honesty,
I mean, I have an idea for how we can possibly talk about this again later, but
yeah,
we'll go over that later.
yeah, of course. But anyways, guys, this has been one of the longer videos we've done, but I haven't felt a minute go by. This has been one of the more fun discussions. I've honestly just missed talking to this idiot.
Same. Again, we really haven't talked since the last time we filmed a video because we've been busy having different things happen. So
Yeah, but looks like our schedules are lining up again, so we'll have just enough time to keep torturing each other, and hopefully torturing you guys. But if for some reason you like these videos, let's comment down. What would you have done for these characters? How would you have introduced them into the show? Oh, do you think some of our ideas were too dark, or did you not think they were dark enough? Which I would love to hear something about that, and maybe some ideas for the other characters, which once again we do plan to do. It's just we want to stick with what we knew best, like the best region. Well, maybe not the best regions, but still, like just the ones we know best.
yeah.
Anyways, please just let us know. We're gonna try and get back to a semi-normal schedule. Oh, and we'll catch you guys next time. This has been Alex,
And Richard.
and this has been the Anime Egotists. Good night, and peace easy.